Visconti and Councilman Arcani. Also present are Councilman Seabury, Councilman Rotella, ex officio, Councilman Stanley, ex officio, Vice Pinter from the Corporation Council. I think Wayne Shepherd's representing the mayor's office.
I think so.
Or are you,
No, I'm,
okay.
yeah, that's it. I'm it.
Sean Stillman from the unit, Larry McGraw from the unit, and Paul Rotella, ex officio. The purpose of this committee is to take a look at an amendment to the Code of Ordinance, Section 12-33, pertaining to shopping carts. Wayne, I'm gonna toss it out to you, to give your side, and then we'll throw it around to questions.
One of the concerns the mayor has had is just the unsightly component that these wayward shopping carts present. He's talked to many of the store owners already. Not easy to have them control it, not easy for us to control it. So he's trying to find an answer to say, how can we stop these from escaping from their own parking lots? A number of things that we've taken a look at, and these are expensive answers to a shopping center owner, where they actually have some of the carts that lock up the minute you leave, but that's an expensive answer. His proposal, the mayor's proposal, as he presents it to you right now, is to suggest a fine for the business owner as well as the individual who was caught with the shopping cart. Obviously, that gets into the area of Sean and Larry here. Not an easy thing to put your arms around, but he's trying, and it's just the constant annoyance, I would say, and the look, just the unsightly look of it is the issue at hand. And he's trying to come up with an answer that says, how do we address it, both with the people who are taking them and with the owners of the shopping centers, they're losing carts themselves. So there's a cost to the shopping center owner or the grocery store owner. There's a cost to us to go out and collect these, pick them up, toss them, and junk them. So there's cost, and basically they're trying to get some of the cost back for the city.
Question I have first for Sean. Sean, do you run into this a lot? Do you see a lot of them? Do you find a lot of them? And what are we doing with them now when we find them?
We find carts on city sidewalks, people's front yards, backyards, side yards, parks, you name it.
What do we do with them now?
Well, we have a city vehicle, we have a Blazer, so we don't have a lot of room to put them in our car. I have one time at least fit one cart in our car and brought it to Public Works. But essentially, the highway department goes around, they have the resource with the pickup truck, and they throw in the back of the pickup truck and bring them to the Public Works.
Now, in this ordinance, your unit's gonna be able to write the citations, right?
Yeah, apparently we'd have the authority to give a citation to either the store and/or the individual pushing along the cart. It's a very good concept. Larry and I were talking about it earlier today, saying that we have seen people in the past, not recently, pushing carts. Usually they're individuals that are in no position to even pay a fine. So it would probably make more sense, while this ordinance is good, but who's responsible for the carts but the stores themselves? So posting a sign to not remove the carts, penalizing the supermarkets, whether it's a process of a step, warning first and a fine second, whether it's a progressive warnings, we can do that. But maybe stores just need a refresher that, the city is littered with carts.
Approximately how many carts you're dealing with here?
Five today, just on Bonforth Avenue.
5 today.
Today.
I was gonna say that too, yeah.
Average day?
Average day, 2, 3, we see on the Bonforth Avenue area, Osborne Street, we've seen them on Main Street, down here at stop.
15 to 20 carts a week.
Easy.
That's
Easy.
That's safe.
Okay.
And that's on the street, on the sidewalks, that's not counting what we find behind people's houses, which could be 3 and 4 at one house.
I have a follow-up, Mr. Chairman. Are they pretty much from the same store? Or are they from variety of different stores.
Majority of them come from what C-Tech that we found in Waltham.
Those are the majority.
Majority of-
Seatown and Wallbounds, maybe because of close proximity to multifamily homes where it's easier to push them out of their property and to their homes.
Do those stores have the proper signage regarding removal of shopping carts?
No.
Not that I'm aware
We've
of.
asked them
Is
to
there
put it
something
up and they have
required?
not.
I think that's part of the mayor's frustration, is that you have talked to a couple of the places and they just haven't gotten a response.
Well, according to subsection B, it says, providing shopping carts for use shall post, not may post. It says here all business, so they're in violation of the current 12-33, because they have not posted. Is that,
If I may.
Yes.
We've asked C-Town at least 4 times to put a sign up to stop them from leaving the premises with the shopping cart. And to the best of my knowledge, they have never posted anything like that. They have gone out and collected shopping carts after we jumped them a couple of times to go do it. They sent a big truck around to pick them up. They only did that like twice and then they stopped.
so they've never been fined for not
Oh, no, we
doing,
never find anybody.
for not posting a sign?
No.
Do you have a question?
Not a question, I just want to make a statement if I may.
Go ahead, Joe.
I think what we're looking at here is sort of a devil's advocate, if you may call it that. We're looking to put stores up for more, going from $15 to $25 for signage. We're looking for the stores to go out and pick up whatever they can of their shopping carts. And I don't really know how to approach this subject, but I would say that most of these violations that come from the shopping carts being out on the street or behind houses are from homeless people or what have you. And I don't see them being able to pay any type of a fine because they just don't have the money. That's why they take the shopping carts and do their bottles or whatever it may be to pick up. So I'm wondering if we were to enact what the mayor wants here, and I really don't have a problem with it, but what kind of a reaction we're going to get from the stores, and I'll use like the A&P up here, or Wall Bombs, or C-Town as an example, and that's just as an example. I'm sure there are other stores that have a problem. What kind of a reaction we're going to get from them, if any at all? Because if we were to really enforce this, the proposed amendment, I can see where, and I've read this several times, where they're gonna have to hire people to go out in a pickup truck and pay them to go out and pick up the carts. If that isn't done, and we start picking them up through the highway department and storing them with $2 per week, or not to exceed $50, and then $10 for return of each shopping cart, so on and so on. I just would be interested to see if there has been any input at all, Mr. Chairman, from the stores as to what kind of an idea they would have here, because it is their problem, but it isn't their problem. There's a couple ways to look at this, as I pointed out. They don't have anybody out there all day long looking at how many people are taking the shopping carts out and then coming back within another 2 hours or 3 hours, or the next morning with a load of bottles to be put into the machines for whatever money these people can get. So I just think that there is a devil's advocate here, and I would just be interested to see some kind of an input from the stores along the way here.
Larry?
Through the chair, the average cost of a shopping cart, one shopping cart is $160. I've already checked on that. And there's several stores that I kind of looked up to find out what they do about it in areas other than Danbury. Some of them have a device like you spoke of, but it costs you a quarter. You put a quarter in, you take the shopping cart out, you put the shopping cart back, you get your quarter back. That's one of the things that they do have. As far as the shopping carts go, some of the people that push those shopping carts are actually doing us a favor because they're picking up all these bottles and cans and getting them off the street for us. So, I mean, we're not gonna, you don't wanna go after those people, but, you know, they're looking to cash in
I
the
don't-
bottles and stuff.
Through the chair, if I may answer that, I don't have a problem with it. I realize what they're doing. But I'm just saying, I would like to see some kind of an input or a legal from a legal standpoint, even, we have corporation counsel here, as to what could happen down the road with the involvement of the stores here, not the people that do the actual problem, cause the actual problem. And I'll present that to the corporation.
Through the chairman, sure. First of all, you'll get some input from the merchants and others at the public hearing, which you would have to have typically for an ordinance, you know, if you made a positive recommendation tonight, so you have some input. There's a couple of, maybe more than a couple of precedents we may be able to reach to, although they're not exactly related, but they are related. The council had considered a prohibition on phone companies and others from throwing their stuff on people's lawns. There wasn't a lot of public reaction to that because it never went in the form of an ordinance. But you did adopt an ordinance on, what's the other one that you did? Just slipped my head a moment ago. But there's a couple of precedents out. Oh, I know what it is. It's the newspaper vending boxes. The council did adopt an ordinance on that. We did expect, because there were limitations on placement and how many and locations and all that, and that did go to a public hearing. I don't think there was too much reaction there, except we got one reaction afterwards by somebody, by the newspaper, complaining about that. So those are precedents. How much reaction there'll be here is difficult to know, but those precedents do exist, and you'll only really find out, Fred, at the public hearing or subsequently when people are aware of this. A lot of this, like the noise ordinance we have and others, half the benefit is the publication that's out there, that here's the prohibition, even if you never enforced it, and you may or may not be able to physically enforce it. But the other half is the actual legal remedies that we have, which we do have. So you gotta look at it from both ends that way too. I don't think the noise ordinance has been enforced very much because the meters are expensive, and I'm not really sure how much of that has gone on. But the chilling effect of that works in some cases, even if you never actually do anything about it.
Thank you. Through the chair to unit. These store owners are already a victim of a crime when somebody takes those shopping carts out of there. That's a larceny all to itself. But I think I'd like to see some enforcement regarding, you know, subsection B of posting of signs, and perhaps it may, even minimally, have some impact on these carts being taken and all. Since we already have this on the books, I mean, it does say shall post, so there is no choice for them. I just know how I would feel as a business owner. Somebody takes one of my wheelbarrows and starts walking down the street with the thing, they're going to jail.
And then you get a fine on top of it.
Well, then I get a fine on top of it.
And you get a fine on top
Well,
of
and
it.
if I get a fine on that, I
Right.
mean, that's just not gonna sit well with me as a business owner. I have a little bit of an issue with increasing fines for the victim on this type of thing. And I'm not saying that we have to go round up all these people and stick them in jail and put them in jail for larceny in the 6th degree. I'm not advocating it, but I'd like to see enforcement of this posting of signs. I know you guys are busy and all that, but I'd like to see the present ordinance enforced. And maybe it'll make a difference to some people.
Well, BM has no issue with that. We can go to each supermarket within the next week, audit the parking lots right outside the entrance, speak to the store managers, verify that they're adhering to that ordinance.
Well, you would have to be all, make sure all, I mean, I know it's difficult.
That's what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
All the supermarkets.
Yeah, also.
You know, I agree
Or
with
any.
what you're
Any
saying.
place that really
Any
has
store,
a.
like Burlington.
I agree with what you're saying, Bob, but I still think
Marshalls,
Exactly.
there's a heck of
Walmart.
responsibility here to the supermarkets. And to me, they're showing a blind spot here.
Well, by not putting up the sign.
Well,
definitely.
that's
Part of
one
that's the first part of it.
But I'll tell you, it cannot be that hard. I mean, if you go to Seatown right now, and I'm just picking Seatown right now, but there's a manager standing out in that window. He's in that front window, he's watching those cash registers. Every minute, every day, there's somebody in charge of the store that's there. You mean tell me he can't turn out and see somebody going down the street with his cart?
I mean, not every time.
What?
Not every
Well, but But I'll tell you what, if we make them responsible, but they're responsible for our people having to go out and pick up trash.
Well, we all know that there's a way to, as horrible as a word as it is, profile who's going to take those shopping carts off the property. Wouldn't you think? I mean, I would be able to profile, I think I would, you know, it's a terrible word, I know, but I would think that they would have some suspicion to
No,
certain
I
individuals
think
who
I
maybe.
think some responsibility falls to the store owner. And then on the other hand, if it's a $25 fine, he's getting a $160 cart back.
Right.
For $25. Plus, it's, that $25 doesn't even pay for Larry or Sean to pick it up, or the Public Works to pick it up.
No, but I'd like to see him abide by the ordinance that we already have.
But the thing is, if we make them pay money,
No, they can put up a sign.
say we enacted this, in 6 months we played hardball, or the city played hardball. I think you'd straighten the problem right out, because then, I mean, you go out to Stop and Shop right now in Mill Plain, now granted, they don't have many walking down Mill Plain Road pushing a cart. But they've got a cart guy out in that parking lot, all day long, there's a cart guy on both sides of that Stop and Shop.
You're right.
Well, that Wabon's put a cart guy out there.
There were my carts that would.
Through the chair
I'm sorry,
again, if we did pick up, when we did pick up carts throughout this past year, this summer, we actually had city truck come over and we threw the carts on the truck and took them to Public Works. If we did that, well, we don't have the capacity to put them in our vehicle, but if we were able to run over there and get a pickup truck and run down and pick up 5 carts like we saw today on Fourth Avenue, throw them in the back, take them to Public Works, those shop owners want them back, it's $50 a piece. Sell them back to them. We gotta pick them up, that's $250 we just picked up, so let's bring them, you know.
Well, that's my argument. I think
It
if you
is-
played hardball for 6 months, it would straighten out this problem.
It's another alternative, I mean, the storage cost, what is it, not to exceed $15 a week or
Yeah,
something to that
$2 a
effect.
day or something.
You know, if the highway department, the unit, whichever group or both, collects them and brings them to one central location, and if the store owners want their cars back, they would have to, kind of similar to the boot, you know, on the car, they pay a fee to get the cart back. And I certainly agree with Councilman O'Connor from a standpoint of having the signs posted, that sets the precedent of this ordinance and the importance of keeping the carts on the property and keeping the city clean. Stores need to be held accountable for their property.
Council Seaver?
I'd like to comment that I'm in full agreement with Bobby about the signs. I also like what Sean just said, if they, and Larry, if they pick up 5 carts, and the fee's gonna be $250 to get it back, or whatever the numbers were, isn't somebody some high school kid that's bagging at Seatown, instead of bagging, he's out there picking up the carts like they do at Home Depot and some of these other places, that's gonna cost him a whole lot less for one of those guys. And I'm in agreement, you play
I
hardball
do
with
the
him for a while.
math, I agree.
You played hardball for a while.
I think if you play hardball for 6 months, you straighten most of it out. You're still gonna have the people taking it.
Oh, yeah.
But- Go ahead, I'm
The
sorry.
other thing to, oh, I'm sorry.
No, no.
The other thing to remember is this, there are some communities who consider the shopping carts litter. And if you consider it as litter in Danbury, you could have, there's actually a very light enactment if you look at it that way, because if these are considered litter, litter has much more substantial fines attached to them. So it's even possible we could have redrafted this in the form of a litter issue, and then fines could be up to $1,000
To who?
to whoever you want. In other words, whoever is deemed to be the littering party, you could do both.
Well, you're gonna go back on prima facie to the store, you're gonna hit it with that much.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that would be very draconian, and you don't want that. That's why this one is a lighter, lower level attempt to regulate it. I'm just saying that what other communities do is they do have these in as litter. I don't know what their fines are exactly, but you can go up to a certain amount. That's why I just wanted to add that to the conversation, so you realize that there are different levels of enforcement of these things, different ways in different communities.
If I could just reiterate what Mr. Pinter just said, if you want to go towards the littering, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a lot of fast food in the area that you find their litter all throughout the city. And if you're going to slap a fine on somebody with a shopping cart, then you have to worry about, I mean, there's a lot of litter out there from fast food. And I'm not gonna name each individual, and I don't even like the idea that, we're talking about C-Town, because there's certain areas in the city that you're gonna find this problem in certain areas, and it's really something that should be addressed throughout the entire city and not pinpoint one area.
Not to mention the carts and the litter, to your example, they're usually, most often the carts are found in public places, city places, sidewalks, parks. So even if the unit were to impose a littering fine, who do you give it to?
Well, if they get caught dumping,
I'm sorry?
if someone should get caught
Yeah, oh,
dumping,
absolutely, of course.
just like we have in the litter ordinance. But my opinion, if I could just speak one more time, I just have a real problem with ordinances that cannot be enforced. And when an ordinance is written, it has to be followed the way the ordinance is written. And like Mr. Visconti expressed, there are some people that have used the carts for means of transportation, for picking up bottles and cans that help our city have a clean streets. And you're not gonna find those people, so if you're not gonna find those people, then how do you find someone else, and who determines that? And then it's almost like being a bully, and pinpointing one particular store or area that is having the issue, and I just don't feel that we're going in the right direction. I know we have a problem. I think it's important that we make sure that these stores put up the signs. If they don't have the sign, I mean, we have an ordinance saying they should have a sign. I mean, that's very helpful, and hope, that's important. They should all have signs. And all the areas, anybody that has shopping carts, Walmart, Marshalls, other sides of town also. But we're talking about stolen property, and I just can't see us finding somebody who has their property stolen. I'm in business, and if I had things stolen off my property, and I would try to put cameras up or try and catch the people that are stealing from me. But this is an issue that I mean, hopefully once the sign goes up, if the sign is enforced, well, I just don't. That's just my opinion. I don't agree with it.
Paul, you had your hand up before.
Yeah, thanks. I just have a couple of comments, not really any questions to unit or less, but, when I was a kid, it seemed to me we were running around all over the place, all the rivers and culverts. The shopping carts were legion, Still River, Blind Brook, all over the place. I manage property, and we've always owned property at the end of dead-end streets, and there's always been, there had in the past, 60s and 70s, been shopping carts at the end of these streets. I don't see as much of an issue now as it used to be. Blind Brook is a constant problem with flooding, and one of the issues with Blind Brook is it gets clogged up all the time, and it used to get clogged up with refrigerators and shopping carts and tires, and that hasn't been as much of an issue lately as it was 15 or 20 years ago. I know that they have a tendency of collecting on my property, and I call up. It's usually wall bombs. I call them up. They send somebody up to get them. I get like 3 or 4, I give them a call, they pick them up for me. I think one of the issues with, somebody had mentioned the policing of the parking lots with the shopping carts is that, most of these stores have like a hierarchy where your job description has a reflection of the talents that you can bring to it. And if you look at the guys that are working the bottle machines, and most of the guys working the shopping carts and the baggers, they have a certain level of expertise, and that's pretty much, they're working as hard as they can to work those shopping carts. I really wouldn't expect those guys to be able to confront somebody who's actually swiping one of their shopping carts. If you guys remember on the corner of West Street and Division, many years ago there used to be a grocery store, I think it was called Food Fair. And then it changed hands and became some Pantry Pride or something like that. And they had they actually spent a lot of money, and they drilled round holes in the concrete sidewalk, it's where U-Haul is now. And they put in galvanized pipe. And the galvanized pipe was wide enough to walk through, or get your bicycle through, but it was not wide enough to put a shopping cart through. I don't know what that cost, but you can imagine, there were hundreds of these things, drilling in the concrete, putting the pipes into the caps, epoxying them in, and all that stuff. And it still left, a big wide space for the cars and trucks to come in, so you could get these carts out, but at least they narrowed it down to a chokehold. But that didn't work. They were still losing carts. I have to tell you that if I was running that business and you guys were finding me for every cart that I lost, which is $150, which I don't want to lose, I think what I would probably do is tell my guys in the parking lot to call the cops every time a cart went down the street. And now we got to look at what's it going to cost to have a cop respond. Hey, we're doing everything we can. Every time a cart goes out of the parking lot 2 or 3 times a day, the police have to respond. Do we want to go down that road? I mean, let's do the signs, use a little persuasion. These guys, they always need stuff, you know, they come to the city for this, and they come to the city for that, and we can, look, if you want this, we'd like you to, you know, spend a little more time on your shopping carts, but I have to pick up litter, fast food, I mean, I do this personally on my own properties. I would love, I mean, in theory, to be able to call up whoever it is that's actually responsible for the litter. To call the guys that are, whose name is on the wrapper, and say, look, I found one of your wrappers. Now I'm going to fine you $150. I mean, that's just silly, because they're not responsible for that. It's the jerk who had the soda, had the hamburger, had the Chinese takeout, who friggin' threw the wrapper in my hedge. I mean, that's the guy who's the problem.
Yeah, but Paul, the difference there is you just said the magic word, it's takeout. The carts aren't takeout.
Cart is larceny.
Somebody,
but I mean,
you go
look-
to
No, when
Dunkin'
you go with
Donuts, you
the
go to
litter.
McDonald's,
When you go with the
it's
litter.
takeout food. It's, I mean,
When you call it
you're
a-
splitting hairs.
I know,
what
but
you're
you
saying.
know,
No,
but
when
the
you
thing
call
is,
I agree with what you're saying.
I got a couple of parking lots, and if people start swiping the tires off the cars, I mean, I'd hate to see the owners of those cars get fined because their tires are winding up in the Still River. You know, sure, if it becomes, that's not going to be a problem. Nobody's going to, you know, risk going to jail to steal a tire to throw it away. They're going to. So I'm being a little facetious, but I have to say it strikes me as somewhat as somebody who represents the constituents in the city who are victims of this crime. It strikes me as somewhat counterproductive to find the people who are the victims. I'm not saying that they don't have any culpability. I'm not saying that they can't improve their policing of the parking lots and improve what they're doing with the shopping carts, but at the end of the day, these guys are losing inventory, and I think we should be working with them to help them as opposed to, you know, turning the screws, that's all.
Larry, go ahead.
He's right in some ways, but I feel as though that there's the shopping carts that are on the street that we find on Bonfort Avenue, Osborne Street, Crane Street, all these shopping carts that we see. I think the only answer is for us to pick them up, bring them to Public Works. They want it back at $50. There's no fine. We just picked up your shopping cart. We did your work for you. After 6 months, like you said, it'll go away. They'll get smart to that act. It's $160 a car. We're giving it back to you for $50. It's not that big of a deal for us to pick it up.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
You make the call after the fact. Why not make the call when you find the carts and have them, give them at least an amount of time to go pick them up themselves?
We've done that.
And they just
They did
disregard
not
it?
respond. I won't even mention the name. They responded 2 times. They came out and did it. The rest of the time, they're in snowbank, they're in the back of the houses, they're everywhere.
And if they don't pick them up once they're down at the public works yard or whatever, then what?
Then we crush them.
They are crushed.
Will you still find them because you still pick them up?
We just crushed them, and then we sell it for whatever they get for the steel that they're made out of or whatever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, if I may, a couple things. First of all, I'd like to say that I don't want some of the things that we're saying here by this committee to be misconstrued by the public. We're not looking to say certain people or certain stores that this problem exists in. We're just discussing and we're using certain names. And the other thing I think is what Paul said, well, one of the things he said is we could find ourselves in a position where the manager of a store or his higher-ups may say, well, every time they take a shopping cart out and our guy sees it and he can't stop it, we're gonna call the police department. God, we don't need police cars running along all over the city looking for somebody with shopping carts. I think that we're the safest city in the state, and I think we need to leave it that way. I don't think we got that way by looking for shopping carts. Maybe we did, I don't know. This thing, it has a lot of avenues where you can go in different directions. And one of the things I would like to see, it's gotta go to a public hearing, and I think we need to hopefully hear from the people out there and see if we can get some information from them, and then vote on it as a committee as a whole. That's just my opinion. I don't know what to come up with
I
tonight.
think the one thing the mayor was looking for was some buy-in from the business. As Bob points out, they were violated, really, somebody stole it. But when he's going specifically certain places, and they nod their heads and say, oh yeah, they don't do that. And then he sends these guys out, and they go up to the stores, correct? And they don't respond, and that's what's frustrating, when the business owner who has had this item stolen doesn't care.
But he'll
Well, I
call
would
the
feel
police, he
different
should
if
call
they
the
just-
police. I get the call from you, I should just call the police and say I had items stolen.
They should abide by the present ordinance.
Okay, that's,
And I feel if
Very valid.
they neglect to abide by the present ordinance, then one, they should be fined, because it says right in here, they get fined for that. They have less of a complaint about the larceny of the shopping cart if they don't abide by this ordinance. Right.
Sure. If I may, through the chair to my colleague.
Sure.
When you say they should abide by this ordinance,
The present ordinance.
present ordinance, so you are not saying that we should go from 15 to 25 hours?
No, I'm saying the present ordinance, which is $15, that's what's in it, that's what's in play right now.
Right.
I don't know, if they're not I feel that they should abide by the ordinance. The present ordinance, which they should have the sign up. I mean, I don't know who has signs up on it.
What about the rest of the things that the mayor?
The present ordinance, they should abide by.
So you don't
I
want.
feel right now, I feel like they should abide by the present ordinance, whatever the mayor is proposing here, then,
No, you're confusing me.
I'm sorry.
The present ordinance is what's written here, but the mayor's idea of changing the ordinance, which way do you want to go here? Do you want to go with the ordinance that's already been written, or do you want to include the mayor's changes?
Well, I think I'll make that decision after I get finished this discussion. But right now, I think we gotta make sure that they abide by the present one.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
mean, I think the signage is pretty important. I think it's gonna send a message to the store owners now, like, the unit people are,
I agree with that, I was just trying to find out the language that you wanted to use.
I'm not sure either, Fred, to be honest with you.
Sean, I got a question for you. They have a valid argument, I think, about this police. Because I can see the store owners getting their hair across their butt and saying, okay, we're gonna harass the police. Well, what about if they harass the unit? Could the unit handle it? If you got 4 calls a day or 5 calls a day for the shopping cart?
Of course you.
Because according to this ordinance, you guys are gonna have the authority to write the ticket.
The unit would be happy to handle it solely as a group or in partnership with the PD, whomever, that's, wouldn't be a problem. I was going to say, I mean, I don't think any of us here are anti-store, anti-business. We're all supportive of our, partners here in the city. None of us just wanna see carts littering the city that we try so hard to keep clean. So it's really the 2 issues that we seem to be talking about, which is, one, find them or don't find them, and if we find them, how much are we gonna find them? But actually, the one thing we're really not talking about enough of, in my opinion, is removing them. The important part of this whole ordinance is because we don't wanna see the carts on the street, yet all of us seem to think that inevitably, we are anyway, even with the signs posted. If we're gonna pick the carts up, which ultimately the city probably is, whether it's the unit or the highway department or whomever, there should be some type of pickup fee associated with that cart to pay for the service of the city group that goes around town, collects them, and then stores them, at Public Works. So even if there is not a fine per se, the unit going back to wall bounds and saying, hey, here's your $25 fine because we found a cart at Main Street, but rather it's, if you want your cart back, it's at Public Works, and oh, by the way, it's gonna cost you $40 or $50
I agree.
to get it out of storage, if you will. And maybe that number is a number that the committee can kick around? What is a number that sends a message, but it's not super ridiculous, where it's worth it for the stores to come get their cart back, but it's also worth it for them to pay the extra.
And it may be an incentive,
Surcharge.
it may be an incentive for them to keep their carts in their
Exactly.
You would think-
in their parking lot.
That's what this group wants. We
Yes.
just want our store owners to be on board to, hey, you know, we better keep our carts here because we don't have the resources and the time to go down to Public Works to get them. And there's no need for us to spend the money.
Right, because now it's a $210 cart.
It just,
If you charge them $50, you
Yeah.
get it back, now it's a $210 cart.
That's
And that
exactly
same
right.
cart
But if they
gets a $260 cart.
But if they don't pick
The price
up
of
the
poker
cart?
keeps going up.
then if they don't pick up the cart, they've
Are they
made a
still being
decision.
fined?
Well,
That's on here.
I'm not, well,
It's up to you how you
perhaps,
wanna write it.
that's what we can discuss.
Still-
Because I think that if there were enough of them, you would think that they will. But, you know, I can't speak for the store owners. I think it would be ridiculous for them not to come get a $200
But is
cart.
there, but then you're defeating your purpose.
I understand.
You did all the work, you picked it up, and they're sitting down there, and if they don't come and pick them up,
That,
then you
that-
still have the same deal.
which is exactly why we're here, because since we started, we haven't gotten any further.
But
We're all
the
in agreement.
in-between part is the act of stealing.
Sure, we're all in agreement that we don't wanna
Right.
penalize the store owners, yet at the same time, they do need to be held accountable. It's their property, they do have staff, regardless of their training, they do have staff that are responsible for keeping their property on their property, for collecting the carts at the end of the night, during the day, in the morning, however long the store is open, and the carts are secured at night. They have staff to do that. If their carts are leaving their property, their staff is not adequately doing their job. That's the bottom line. Our business owners here are aware of that. If they hired people to do a certain thing and the job wasn't getting done, that staff would probably be reprimanded.
Paul, you engineer?
Yeah, I like the idea of picking them up and then calling them and saying, hey, come get your cart, and it's 25 or 50 bucks or something like that. But this just occurred to me, maybe this might satisfy the mayor and it might satisfy everybody else. I don't know, but let's throw it out there. How about this? We spot a cart on Hillside Street or Linden Place or in Blind Brook. We call up Walbons or whoever it is and say, hey, you got a cart in the river, go get it. They don't get it, we fine them 50 bucks. Tell them first, get your cart. Instead of we get the cart and we find them and go through the rigmarole, you guys are driving around, you see 2 or 3 a day, you call them up. What?
They're stolen carts.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
your cart's in the river, your cart's on the street, go get it.
They
You
won't
don't
come
get
get
it,
it.
we're gonna get it, and we're gonna charge you 50 bucks. But
How
give
they-
them a
they won't
chance to
come.
get it first, that's all.
I've done that before.
Perhaps, well,
Then you can find them.
what I would recommend, I think that's a good idea, but instead of having the stores accountable to come to the various locations in the city to get it, they should come to the central location of Public Works, because our highway department staff are not going to willingly drive past a cart on
They're
a
gonna stop
sidewalk.
and get it, yeah.
They're gonna wanna pick it
Right,
up
right.
in an effort to keep the city clean.
That's true.
And how much time is enough time to adequately give a store owner to get the cart? So make it a central location, not to mention, you can imagine the logistic problem we can have. Yeah, it's somewhere on Park Avenue, and then they're driving all around the city because they don't know where Park Avenue is. Say, go to Public Works, this is where it is, you have a week, if it's not there, if you don't pick it up within a week, then you lose a $150 investment, I guess, and then in
Yes.
addition, maybe you do find
Well,
them.
if I could support that we get the cart, we offer them a chance to retrieve it for a fee, and then if they
Period.
don't retrieve it, that's it, end of story. If they don't
Period.
retrieve it, we crush it, you know.
Yeah, and they'll probably go down and get the cart more than likely, because we picked up 9 in one day on Bound Fourth Avenue. We had to call a city truck to pick them up. They were on the street, they're on the sidewalk, they're on the lawns. We couldn't believe how many were there. I mean, it's unbelievable. We had a dump truck come down and pick it up, and we threw them on the truck, and they took them away. They went to Public Works to get them, though, after they, because we went and told them, your carts are at Public Works, but we didn't charge them a fee.
They were charged a fee, they just went.
We didn't have any fee to charge them, but they went down and picked them up. If they had to pay for it, they might not do it the next time. They might say, hey, well, let's get out there and get these carts.
That's, I think that's the incentive.
You got a motion? You looking for a motion? No?
I have a question.
Go ahead, man.
Thank you.
To the unit, the cars that you're finding, whatever city street it may be, or parking lot, or whatever it may be, do most of them have a sign on them where they belong?
Yes,
They do.
on the handlebar.
Yeah, majority of them do.
So you know, you have an idea then who to contact. And
Most of the time, we know who to contact. yeah.
what happens to the ones that there's nothing on it at all? You just throw it in a truck and they bring it over?
Take it away to
Yeah.
Public Works.
Okay. I
Let's
think
give
that-
those to the homeless people. To the can picker up
Few
and
of
give
them out
those
there
to
doing
them.
that.
I was just gonna add one last additional point is, for the most part, we do find the carts on city property, but we have from time to time found them on people's property. And so that's where it kind of opens up a different avenue, because the highway department is not picking up carts found on other people's property. They're picking up carts that are on sidewalks, in parks, on the street sides, what have you. So to those carts, I mean, perhaps a group can consider, much to what Les was saying, that's considered litter, and, you know, the unit would take the responsibility of ensuring that, you know, the litter was cleaned up.
Well, that would be up to the
Yeah.
homeowner, not to
That would
the,
be
not to
the
the shop, not to the store.
That would be the property owner.
We,
Well, that's fine.
Through the chair, we did have an incident where we have a police officer with us most of the time when we go out and do certain things. Kenny Utter comes with us. We did find a shopping cart in the back of that house, and he told her, he said, "You can be arrested for this. This is a larceny charge." He was prepared to give her an arrest for stealing that cart. She took that cart and walked it all the way back to the store. She took it back. And I doubt she'd ever do that again, because the officer said, you know, "You can be arrested for this, and I will arrest you for it if you don't take it back," and she took it back.
It's larceny.
I gotta jump in here. If you guys are talking about arresting property owners because people have dropped carts on their property, and I don't know if that's what you're talking, that's what this kinda sounded like to
That
me.
wasn't what it was.
As,
Usually
as,
the residents
as a property
live there.
manager, I gotta tell you what the supers are gonna do, they're just gonna push the carts onto the sidewalk. I mean, I get carts on my property, street people drop them off there. They go through my dumpsters to get cans, and for whatever reason, they leave a cart there. And I mean, so what am I supposed to do? I didn't.
You
put
can
it
call
there.
you can call the store.
I do, and they come and take it. But I mean, if I'm gonna get a $150 or $1,000 littering fine, I'm gonna tell my guys, if you see a car, push it on the sidewalk, get rid of it. It's radioactive at that point. I mean, you know. Hypothetically,
This happened to be in the back of the lady's house, and she had,
well, you know,
took her groceries home. That was the issue there, and that was a one-time.
my take on this is the property owners are not the people who are taking the carts. It's not
I
the
agree.
people who
I
are.
agree with that.
And the premise of this ordinance, I'm fairly certain focuses on the carts based on city property, not necessarily on people's property. The unit can continue to take care of that and address it as litter accordingly. But I just thought that was important to note.
The issue, Mr. Chairman, that Paul brings up actually, in a way, solidifies or supports the ordinance as it's proposed to you, because it looks to avoid carts on private property. It tries to encourage merchants to keep their carts generally away from any property other than their own. So in a way, your issue is important, because you don't want to be going on private property to do that. So what's being attempted here is to say, keep the carts in-house, not on private property, not on public property. So in a way, the ordinance as proposed would help to solve that problem that Paul was so worried about.
So as I understand this, what we're doing is, you want us to go to every single store that has carts, make sure a sign is posted, show them a copy of this ordinance as to what's proposed, what is already written, and hopefully that they'll follow it. If we continue to find shopping carts on sidewalks in various areas, we will just pick them up and take them to Public Works at that point. Am I clear on this now, is what we're doing? We're not gonna fine anybody at this point, we're just gonna take.
Well, I think, I like the idea of the retrieval fee,
Retrieval fee, yes, to take it back, I agree with that.
deciding on a retrieval fee
instead of a fine.
instead of a fine.
In addition, for the stores that are notified to come pick up their cart, and they don't, after a set amount of time, think they,
Oh, yeah, get
I
destroyed.
think they should get fined.
Just so I understand that part, Mr. Chairman, there is a retrieval fee now. It's called a storage fee that builds up.
Oh, that's
Right,
$2.
yeah, $2.
Yeah,
$2
so-
a week.
Up
You
to a
know,
certain point, up to
Up
a
to
certain amount.
$50, up to a certain $50 or something like that, so
Right.
Well,
it'd be additional fee.
so just take that. I guess I'd like to see just a standard retrieval fee.
I don't, if I may,
Go ahead.
I don't see how we can come up with an amendment or without including everything that the mayor has in here and then let it go to a public hearing and see what happens. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. For now, that's how I look at it, without trying to take one section here and one section there and changing things around. Just include what he has in here and see what happens. Because that may be what comes out in the end anyway, when we meet on this.
Could very well be, but Councilman, I'll tell you, as a business owner, if I had 200 $160 items, and some of those got stolen, I'd gladly pay $50 to get them back.
I understand.
To get that item back.
I understand that, but maybe this would
Or you
give
do
him,
something to stop
Right,
it.
and I would definitely do something to stop that to
Yeah, I mean,
happen. I'd pay it maybe once or twice and realize they're being taken from me, and I'll do something to keep my items.
well, I'm under the impression that we still have an ordinance, am I correct? We're just amending the ordinance.
Yes, there's an existing
So,
ordinance, right.
We're still threatening them with some kind of a fine, whether it's $50 or $10.
Well,
They're still gonna get a fine.
There's a fine and a retrieval fee, it's two different things.
But right now, the target of the fine is not the merchant. The proposed ordinance targets the existing target and a new target. That's the difference.
Wow.
I mean, there's a theory in law called joint and several liability. It's used all the time, not saying it needs to be used here, but when you have more than one party, it's obliged, in negligence laws, to do something different. Joint and several liability applies, meaning you did something wrong and you did something wrong, both are culpable. This is kind of the same thing. There's a recognition that the existing ordinance punishes the people who take the carts. Now, what's before you is a recognition that the people who allow that to happen and don't implement measures are also culpable. That's really all there is. And it's common, and I'm not promoting the ordinance, I'm just saying that the ordinance as presented to you does that. I mean, that's what's happening.
Well,
One thing that you guys could consider, and that is to lower the retrieval fee to about $25, eliminate the storage fee. It would be a one-shot deal. You guys pick up a couple of carts, you call up the store, we got your cart, come get it for $25. If they don't come and get the cart, they get fined $25. You want a little?
on top of the.
No, it's just, it's $25. $25, come get your cart. If you don't come and get it, so it was brought up earlier that sometimes they come when the carts are free. Maybe they won't come if it's gonna cost them $25. The idea is to keep the carts off the street. But the idea also is not to punish ultimately the victim. So we will come and get your cart. You guys are falling down on the job, policing your carts clearly, for whatever reason. They're clogging up the storm drains, or on the streets, or on Park Avenue, Division Street, wherever, Main Street. We will pick them up, and we're gonna call you when we get them, every month. You know, you got a half dozen carts, you come get them, $25 a piece. And if they can't be bothered, we charge them the 25 anyway, and crush them.
How are you gonna collect it?
So you have the retrieval fee and you have the fine, and they don't go hand in hand. It's essentially one or the other. If they come to get them,
It's a retrieval
they
fee,
pay the
right.
retrieval fee. If they choose to leave them behind, then they pay a fine.
It's carrot and stick. We got them, you can have them back for $25. Hey, if they can't be bothered, it's 25 anyway. So maybe they'll get the message and stop, and we'll see. We probably won't see all of them, because, you know, there's a lot of pressure taking these carts. They're pretty handy gizmos, but maybe it'll cut it back a little bit. I don't know. I think you'd have to rewrite the,
A question through the chair to Mr. Pinter. If that's the case, can, at that point, when they get the call from the unit, and this is just your legal opinion, couldn't the store owner at that point call the police department and say I had stolen items and they're at the public works department and just fill out a report?
They could.
And then we're
That-
bothering the police department because they are stolen items?
Well, remember that issue, the police department issue, the whole issue of the PD and all that exists now, okay? I mean, the way the ordinance is now, people could call the police department right now. So the ordinance is amended, I don't, it might, but probably doesn't enlarge that possibility very much, okay? So that's kind of a red herring issue here. The PD could be called at any time under the existing ordinance by anybody, right? Because without the new, let's say you don't
I'm just
adopt the.
thinking that they're gonna get overwhelmed with calls because of this. That's my,
It's
I'm
hard
afraid
to
of-
say, it's
yeah.
hard to say whether a merchant will take advantage of this amendment if you do it, to say, I'm gonna fix the city, no way to know that. You know, it's
No,
possible,
it wouldn't be fixing the city, it would
you
just,
know.
it would just be because their items are being stolen off their property, that the first thing that you do is you call the police.
Well, remember-
Them having an issue
Well,
that,
remember, Bob would know, others would know more about this than I do, but there's a joint culpability here. Sure, there's a theft, but if you allow a theft, if you encourage a theft, if you will, you're almost,
yeah,
again,
that's in your
jointly.
ordinance. That isn't, it says permitting such removal. Who says they're permitting it? I mean, they're not saying, yeah, go ahead, take that home and bring it back when you get a chance.
Yeah.
They're not saying, they're not permitting it,
Well,
they're taking them.
If you gave me time, I could probably come up with 16 scenarios
sorry.
where,
Yeah.
where a property owner or a business or whatever allows things to happen that they could prevent, okay? And it's not really the person's fault on the street, it's the merchants or somebody else who didn't institute measures, okay? You know, let's say, the scale in the store, if it's not measured properly, it's not the person buying the fault who bought too many grapes, it's in the measurement, right? So you have issues like that. So it's very difficult to try to figure out like who would call the police, who would not call the police. The whole idea behind the amendment is to simply send the message that, you're also responsible, merchant, if you don't have some reasonable way to control this proliferation. Because people will take advantage, grandma's gonna take the cart and he's gonna go down the street living next door because, they have to do that. So it puts additional pressure on the merchant in a reasonable fashion. Again, as I said before, you could accelerate this by throwing in the category of litter and you'd really drive them crazy. You don't wanna really do that, so.
No.
I think that's the premise of this ordinance. It's that accountability. You mentioned if a wheelbarrow was taken once or twice, you gladly pay that retrieval fee instead of having to buy a new one. But at the same time, I'm sure you'll also try to think of different ways to prevent the
course.
wheelbarrow from continuing to be taken.
That's what you hope happens.
So,
All right, Larry, you got anything new to add?
Just one more thing. I don't know, Paul has a good idea, but the cost effectiveness of, if you're in business, you're gonna send 3 people out. Him and I go out, we spot 4 carts on the street, right? Cost effectiveness. Now we gotta call in a truck to pick this stuff up. Dump truck's gotta come, throw the carts on the truck, we help them throw the carts on the truck. Is that gonna be worth $25? I mean, to me, a $50 retrieval fee is a drop in the bucket compared to getting that thing back at $160. He's getting it actually $110 back for his loss. I'm looking at the cost of the people, of us, of the dump truck, of the other guy going out, picking this thing up and bringing it back. Certainly costs more than $25 for 3 people and 2 trucks
in the storage.
and the storage.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do, Fred? For a motion?
I don't have a motion at this time. I would like to suggest, if possible, with ruling from the Corporation Council, that we go into executive session to discuss the changes.
If the committee can go into executive session, in the motion, you have to state the purpose for it. And there are only certain stated reasons you can go into executive session. Pending litigation, potential litigation, certain contractual matters, labor matters. I don't know, you'd have to
Not
state
language
the
to an-
reason.
Not language to an amendment, or to an ordinance, not language to an
No,
ordinance.
You have to find an angle, it has to do with concern about litigation, pending litigation, which,
I'm out of angles.
Let's try, Fred.
If we were to make if we were to have a motion and have it passed to proceed with this the changes to this, we would obviously have public hearing where we can discuss, possibly change it some more, so maybe that's what we should, maybe that's the route to take.
So
We're
what's
gonna
your
have discussion
recommendation?
on it anyway, so.
We're gonna have discussion, so I'm gonna reluctantly approve, make a motion to approve the amendments to the ordinance 12-33, and have it proceed,
I will joyfully second that.
Then I'll proceed to a public hearing.
and then proceed.
Well,
to
let's go back to the council first.
Right.
Yeah, let's go back to
And
the
then
council
out,
first,
yeah.
so I'm reluctantly approving this, make a motion for this, right?
Second, Fred?
Yes, I will.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're over for adjournment.
It's a tough one.
It is?
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, it is a tough one, but,
Remind me to thank the mayor next time.
I just think it's play hard ball for a couple minutes, do a couple
He
runs.
said he's just gonna, he agreed to this, the mayor wrote.
It's always fun.
All that
And he's gonna really let the public figure it
Everybody
out.
talks about it, he'll bring in.
Those that we're talking about have been fixed before. They've been cut, sodded, and redone. And Tony's concerned about, it's been through 10 lifetimes. It's more than a cat. So that is, what was it cost to replace that? It's about $400,000. So they're gonna get in there, they're gonna fix what they can, and then try to figure out what needs to be done in the future with that. So the city's working hand in hand with us on this. But this potentially is, a big issue for us. And by the way, we had to stop I saw you canceled any participation.
All activities are.
From outside groups as well?
Yes.
Okay, until we figure out.
Correct.
Angelo, how bad is the heating system at the high school?
I'm sorry?
How bad is the heating system at the high school?
The high school has experienced over some time now several different issues. I mean, the building was built in 1964. There have been some retrofits. The boilers have not been replaced probably since '92. Over the years, there's been several patches made, specifically to the boilers. The boilers for that size facility experience, a large demand. Unfortunately, with the city and their budget situations, they're never able to fund and replace these boilers the way they should be. It's always a Band-Aid or a patch. Actually, what's interesting is the one boiler is capable of handling the heating in the high school. Okay, there's 3 boilers on the site. 2 are redundant boilers as backups. Unfortunately, though, they're all beginning to fail due to their age. So again, the city, they do the best they can. They do their patches, their Band-Aids as they can. But we're at a point where they need to seriously consider looking at replacing boilers.
And what do you think is the cost? Can you guesstimate?
For one boiler, you could, depending, you're looking at anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000, depending on an entire replacement or a retrofit. So it's not a low cost. situation.
So to replace the whole thing conservatively, we're looking at about $1 million.
Yes. The 3 boilers completely, yes.
Aren't one or more of them steam? Or
Mr.
they're-
Fazio has the floor.
All the boilers are steam, yes.
Angelo, I have just one question. If the HVAC unit on the roof was outside the building,
Yes.
and it was leaking outside the building, why then did the water come inside the building? Because it kind of rains and snows all the time outside the building, and that doesn't come in. Why did the HVAC water get in?
Good question. The HVAC unit is inside of an enclosed structure on top of the roof. It's called, we refer to it as the penthouse. Yeah, I went up there personally myself because I was curious. Why is this water penetrating? Why isn't there some sort of system to, catch the water and take it away? For whatever reason, when they constructed the building, they did not install a floor drain in that room. The water, once the coil fails, the water is actually leaking through the penetration from the HVAC unit, the ductwork that penetrates through the structure to then provide heating to the space down below.
So in essence, it's like having a laundry room on the second floor of your house and not having a floor drain. or a
Exactly,
washing machine.
exactly.
What I asked them to think about is to create, I know it's about a 10-foot, 6-foot wide area. Why don't they have a pan put underneath to catch that water and then create some kind of vacuum and drain?
Exactly.
So they need to think about that.
I did talk to my guys about that, and that's probably what we're going to do, outside of the city, just to avoid this situation. We will do that ourselves.
Dr. Rossi, how many classes were affected by this heating issue?
About 20.
And I heard a rumor that teachers were teaching in ski jackets. Is that true? Yes? Teachers. Well, that leads me to my question. Is that legal?
What, if you cold wear a jacket?
How the rules that-
Well, I think one of the conversations Bob and I had this morning, when we left yesterday, we were told that everything was repaired. We didn't know there was this track problem, whatever. Today, when he called me early, he says, what are we gonna do? It's like 52 degrees. So they got people there and they started, we're gonna consider late start tomorrow to try to see if we can get the heat up. We could cancel. I mean, legal or not, if it's that cold, we shouldn't have school. We'd have to either close that wing, because we had school and the rest of it, and that's what we may have to do. And what I'm saying to you is that infrastructure, not even talking about the boiler, that's a whole nother issue if something goes. It could happen again, because the valves that have been broken with the steam, if it's forced in there because it's working clearly now, it could just blow these other valves that are, rotten and corroded because of the increased heat now that's working properly. So you got all this stuff that's happening.
So what are we gonna do?
Well, what we're doing now, Antonio spent most of the day up there looking at that. They went into the unit where the pipes are at, and they're checking the valves. So they're doing everything they can. If it gets that bad, we make a decision either to close, and the kids gotta make up the day or do whatever we need to do, or close the D wing and have them, attend school in the other part. But if it's gonna be a prolonged thing, you may have to close. I mean, the city, I think, Angela knows, they're there trying to work out these things. I was there, I watched them move up the ladder, did all that stuff. These guys are doing what they can, but it's a very old structure. I mean,
I guess my question really is where we proactively, but I don't wanna be, I'd rather we not be reactive and wait till the whole thing blows. What are we proactively gonna do?
I can tell you what Antonio told me, that they're gonna make an assessment and try to make some recommendations. They talked about the boilers, they looked at different things they have to do. I think our facilities committee ought to review it and talk about it. That's the proper place to do that. But, let's not kid ourselves. Do they have 400,000 or $1 million for to do it? I think it's gonna be problematic. But that's Is that what they told you? I don't know.
Yeah, and for the record, we submit to the city of Danbury our capital improvements requests for the year. We do that on an annual basis. And the heating system is always part of that, not only at the high school, but at other sites, but it's always part of that.
And I think as far as I've been here, the city's been very responsive trying to get there to fix things. We just need to get better information, and it's usually when they have a contractual with Honeywell,
Yes.
they need to communicate with us more. Because when it gets to the city, then we hear about it. Sometimes they bypass us, and that's what happened in this case. We didn't have good data that they were replacing that today. We may have made a different decision. Maybe we would have had a late start, in order to accommodate the repair. So we got to improve some of that communication with the vendors as well. But the city's been helpful. I think the facility committee ought to look at that and see if there's somehow we can work something together. I don't know.
Do you think that with the warmer temperatures coming, that some of the pressure will be off the heating system so they can look at it, repair it, have more time? I don't know.
Well, specifically to the two situations we're discussing today, they're working on those as we speak. So the patches will be made, the repairs will be made on those specific items. But again, yes, the temperature, a warmer temperature is going to reduce the demand and it's going to work for everyone. However, we're just at the beginning of winter here and the demand will increase again. And again, the system is old, it's antiquated, and other problems are going to arise. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, just a case in point with Mr. Antonio here. You may recall the leak that was downstairs, was going into the gym. 25 years, they had to mop it up each year. Well, they discovered after excavating, doing it the right way, that the original foundation was defective. Right, was correct. They didn't repair it. I mean, when they do something, they're doing it right, so that's what I'm saying. I got some confidence and faith in the work that the man is doing. It wasn't just a matter of it was just backfill and fix this and patch it. They went down, they repaired everything. There's no leak. Gym floor now hasn't, buckled again. So this is the kind of thing that's going to take some resources to do.
Well, yeah, I'm not concerned about the city's commitment. I know that the city's commitment is great, and I know that Antonio's team is terrific. What I'm concerned about is where we come up moving forward.
I think that's a good concern.
That's my concern, is that we don't have the money.
Well, we don't own the building. It's not our building.
Well, it's the city.
But we're part of the city.
Right, well, that possibly could be
Work
money
together.
for that comes out of whatever monies we need to run the school system.
I got one last thing, and then Dr. Rossi.
Just wanted to comment as a former chair of the Sites and Facilities Committee. I'm sure Mrs. Molinaro knows. Anything that's going to run to that level of expense, you're talking major repairs to that largest heating system in our system. At that point, the city's going to have to look at it, and that's a bondable item. It's a capital improvement and a bondable item, and they're going to have to make that. They make that determination. We don't. And any time we get a capital improvement of that magnitude, boilers Angelo's talking about, there's, I'm sure Angelo will concur. If you increase the pressure in that system by putting 3 new boilers on those lines, you may not have a heating system left. Because that heating system has not been maintained over the 40 years that building's been up there. The current administration's done a very good job working with Angelo in maintaining that system. But going back in my lifetime, that system was not maintained to the level it needed to be maintained. So I think that that's something that the city's going to have to look at down the road, aside from our budget. I don't think this has anything to do with the operating budget of the school system.
One last thing, in working with Irving, I'm suggesting that we have a board workshop on, I believe it's February 17th, is that correct? Which is a Wednesday, and that'll be on the high school initiatives. And we'll just spend that time that night on high school initiatives. So I just wanted to note that.
7 o'clock?
Pardon?
7?
I believe it's the 17th, February 17th.
7.
Oh, it's 7. Is it 7?
Yes.
7. Sorry. Thank you.
On to action items. The chair seeks a motion regarding action item A.
Board of Education accept the November 2009 operating results analysis general fund in accordance with 10-10.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Taversack. Discussion, Mr. Worley on the floor.
Thank you. For the month of November of 2009, the district's expenses totaled $7,249,000 for a fiscal year-to-date evaluation of $32.9 million, approximately 29% of the general fund total budget. As of November 30, 2009, the district carried encumbrances of $10,678,000. Combined value for year-to-date expenditure rate with encumbrances of 39% as compared to the theoretical expenditure rate of 42%.
Are there any questions? Mr. Taversack?
Okay, just in general, Elio, do you foresee anything that looks medical to you? I can't say it. You know, it could be a problem in the future. I mean, I looked through it quickly, and it looked to me like everything was within pretty much bounds. But you're the one who knows the numbers.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Taversack. The best attempt is made during the year to address any deficiencies in account balances with intra-budget transfers that come before the board for approval. Outside of the transfer requests, one item that does stand out at this time, and has for the past couple of months now, which led to the immediate freeze, which went into effect on the 1st of December, is the uncertainty tied to a receivable which is booked at a value of $600,000. The board is aware the $600,000 receivable is the pending payment from the city to the Board of Education funds for the sale transfer of the Roberts Avenue School. To this date, we have not received and or heard any additional information with regards to the transfer. So we still await it. However, from our financial standpoint, it was proper as of December 1st to enter into freeze mode, given the uncertainty of the $600,000 combined with the uncertainty of the state budget reductions that were proposed by the governor at the time. So the largest risk that we carry this time is carried by the uncertainty of the state budget and the reductions that would likely pass to the Board of Education, as well as the pending payment of $600,000.
Any other questions of Mr. Longo? Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Did we have, in addition to the 600,000, was when you make reference to the state, is that with regard to the magnet school differential that we were shortchanged on?
Yes, the magnet school, this year alone, we lost $108,000 of reimbursement from the state of Connecticut for the AIS magnet schools. Additionally, we also lost one of our grant funds, valued at approximately $80,000, combined with the 108, close to $200,000 on top of the $600,000, basically approximately $750,000 to $800,000 potential deficit as of today's date. Again, the prudent measure which we entered and took as of December 1st was to enter into a freeze mode.
Are we going to do anything to, how do you handle the 600,000 from the city? It's like getting blood from stone, but do you request, is there a deadline, a date that we have to what's it, June 30th, or
Yeah.
make a formal request from the city as to what their intent is?
Technically, the Board of Education received payment by June 30th. Working back from June 30th, the latest that the Common Council could act on it. Mr. Scott's as a former member, help me here. The council meets monthly, first Tuesday of the month. So technically, we can wait until late spring, May, perhaps even into June for a formal position invoked by the Common Council for the transfer, as long as the payment arrives to the Board of Education on June 30th.
But at this point, there's not a certainty.
There is not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions of Mr. Longo? Seeing none, the discussion is closed. All those in favor of action item 8, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Chair seeks a motion regarding action item B.
That the Board of Education accept the November 2009 operating results analysis regarding branch projects in accordance with 11-11.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Badaisky. Discussion, Mr. Wonderly, you have the floor.
Thank you. For the month of November 2009, the district spent a total of $1,252,000 for fiscal year-to-date expenditure value of $4,826,000 of its federal state project grants fund. Fiscal year-to-date value 25.2%.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wonderly? Seeing none, all those in favor of action item B signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
On for information this evening are items A and B. Item A is the budget plan process and timetable.
I see, good.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Is there a motion on the floor regarding action item C?
It's the new agenda, corrected.
That the Board of Education authorizes superintendent to sign a letter of agreement with CLMP for energy efficiency services at Danbury High School. Second.
Seconded by Mr. Tavisek.
Oh, there was this, I apologize. In addition to the Danbury High School, it's the Rogers Park Middle School and Broadville Middle School through the CT, Connecticut Energy Efficiency Fund, in accordance with 10-11A.
Seconded by Mr. Tavisek. Discussion.
I don't, is there any questions? We've been beating this to death for the last few months, and it is a cost savings to the city of over $7,000 if the theory is right. $10,000 per month.
Oh, yeah, but the aggregate was,
Right.
of how much? What was the aggregate?
Over the course of 10 years, approximately $2.4 million of cost avoidance.
Yeah, plus cost. I don't see any questions here.
Mr. Womack.
Just for clarity, what is before you this evening is a letter of agreement between the Board of Education and Connecticut Light and Power to secure a funding position based on an application that was submitted to CLMP some time ago for energy efficiency measures over 3 locations. It will secure the funds. It is not required, will not require the board or lock the board to a position where it must do the improvements. The funds, we've received verbal commitment on the funds. The letter of agreement now will have a formal lock on the funds for the district.
Just to add to that though, all this is hold a position.
Yes.
It's going to require us to go to the city and get permission for the funding piece. It's not something we can do. So all we're doing now is telling CLP we intend on applying. We go to the city, given they approve it, then we can move forward with the project. Just want to make that clear.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of action item C, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries unanimously. On for information is the budget plan processing timetable. We'll be talking about that more in our committee reports. Also on for information is the magnet school application process timetable. We'll now go on to board reports. I moved this item up in the agenda to allow any committee activity that has taken place since the last meeting to be reported on prior to committees changing leadership. We'll start with sites and facilities, Mr. Scott.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we did have a meeting, and it was very productive, as you just saw with the American Career Tech Energy Service. We are trying to share with the public and the city that we are trying to save money, and hopefully the money that we do save will come back to us, not just cut off our budget, and we'll work hard personally to make sure that that's there. There are other things on here that are, as you can read. so we don't have to go on, but we're gonna look at an audit for the transportation system, see if we can save money, as Mr. Fazio, a few others have asked, on our buses, and a little more, if we can, tweak it a little, we'll see. And one of the big items is, Mrs. Molinaro and I sat in what was it,
That was the 21st century skills
21st century,
workshop.
workshop on electronic textbooks.
Well, the open source and different kinds
Right,
of
open source.
technology and skills for teachers and students.
Right, so Dr. Sal was there, and we just happened to talk that maybe we can save money on that too with our electronic system. And maybe use our computers, put it in here, and cut back on our paper use, and download it on ours, and it's something to think about. This is nothing that can happen right away. Also sending memos to our schools electronically instead of paper. And of course, they can download if they need to save money. Although it seems like small things, it can be large. We do have to use schools. And Mr. Angelo walked through our schools and trying to identify any cost savings we can make. He's already walked through schools. If you have in front of you how many schools, there's always to save money. And of course, now that we just got brought up the high school problem, I think that we'll bring it up at the site's meeting, if I'm still chair, or chair will bring it up, and work closely with the city when their evaluation comes to try to alleviate the problem in the short term and fix it in the long term. And we have to start that right away. We don't want an emergency to happen where we have to close the schools up. My opinion, I don't know how bad this is. We have to find out from the administration. These are all starting to happen. Things are starting to break down, especially in the high school. So we're closely, maybe we can get this fixed, not only band-aid fixed. I'm sorry, Nick Caruso. Right, right. We're handed out, a brainstorming concept to pay for. This time we've had new school, two new schools that were given to us, Magnus is only so far
fiscal year, fiscal budget. We currently operate